Everybody, welcome back. Well, we can just take a look at the S&P and start seeing the roll over right here on the RSI. Let's just make this a daily very quickly, and you can see it here as well. We're going to spend some time on the breadth. We're certainly going to spend some time on tech and what's happening there. We can all see these levels, and we can all see how we failed. Let's drill into this on a 5-minute just so we can all watch it. Get rid of the RSI very quickly and just take a look at how this has been playing out the past 2 days. And we can see it. It's not really that hard to see where this level came up, rejected, and since then you've had nothing but selling. But I want to focus on the last 2 days because I think that's the most important on what's happening. So you have that Tuesday 9:30 rallies up and then just the complete undercut, tries to rally through it again and again, and just collapse at the end of the day. So that takes you all the way back to Tuesday the 12th that you're now below. Drop this on an hourly, and it's very clear that you have a complete change in trend, and you should be able to see this for yourself. But we're just going to mark it off here and look at this so that we can see it. Let's just get that super close and super tight so it's right against the body. And you can see it's right against the body here. We could see the undercut here, the rally probably even to this thing, which is kind of always crazy how that works. Let's just make sure it's right on that body. Yep, it's tried a little bit in here, but not as bad as I thought it was going to be. And there we are. If we overlay this again with the RSI, you could say, well, the hourly is starting to turn. That's great. And the 4-hour is where? Here. So the 4-hour hasn't even broken yet, just so we're clear on this. And if you're wondering what that means, I'll just walk you through it. If you take a look at the 4-hour and we click right through this, drop it right here, and now what we do is we drop this over. And this tells us something pretty significant. And there were some real significant moves today. I'll show you a couple things that I was in for months that I actually closed today. But if we look at this, it doesn't get more obvious that we have a problem. It really doesn't. This always leads. It always leads. I can't stress this enough. If you use RSI correctly, it will always lead. It doesn't tell you that you're going to roll over, but it'll tell you if you're going to go sideways or not. It is very clear with this when you start having these trend lines and you break these trend lines. You can even see it back here. It's very hard to not see after you've seen them. And you just look where these breaks are. And then you just watch how it acts. And people are always like, well, it didn't break. Okay, well, it took 2 days. You know, it's not something like 1, 2, 3, go. So just be aware of that, these minor ones versus the major ones. Now, what people are going to do is they're going to look at the futures market. And they're going to say, okay, well, the futures market on the 4-hour, let's clean all this off, is down here. So we're okay. You haven't even cracked yet. You haven't even broken the level yet. So no, I don't think you're there yet. And I don't think that you should be thinking about it as if you are there and everything's fine. Now, the question really is 3,400 going to hold? And I really don't have an answer as to whether or not, 6,400 is going to hold. And I don't have an answer to that yet. I mean, everybody wants 6,400 to hold. Everyone's going to tell you it's going to hold. I don't know that. I don't know that. And so what we're seeing is we're seeing this opening print try to hold a little bit here, but we cracked. Now, if we do the same thing on the futures market, we take the low and we take the low here and we look at where it cracked, you're going to see the same exact thing. And this is why when you watch Saturday's video, which I will link at the end here, I always try to hammer this home. Nobody knows what's going to happen, but I'll always point out what you should be looking for to see if it does start to happen. And I did that in Saturday's video and said, hey, if this, then this. So if you start taking a look at how this is playing out and the undercut, it is very clear that you broke, tried to get through this level from Monday on, and that you broke down today. So, make no bones about it. You have a control bar right here, and you can see this level coming straight across, and I'll drop it right on it so we can't miss it. There's your opening. And it's right up where that doji is. And then we're going to mark off this close right here. And you can see that as well. So it took you right to the top of that level. And that's where you closed. You undercut. It doesn't mean that you can't bounce and then just roll over again. And it doesn't mean that the hourly isn't going to mark the bottom. But you have a lot of work to do now on this. And I'll show you. And I want to show it through this. I want to show it through the S&P. We're going to clean all this off, and then I want to show you some of the names that I did get out of today, names I've held for months, and I'll show you why. But most important, if we're taking a look at this and we just drop it to the 12 and the 22 and the 55, and just a real quick reminder on how I look at the world. Let's take this off. The 12 to me is, can I swing trade or can I not swing trade? Yes, I can swing trade as long as I'm above the 12. 22 is the bulls in charge or the bears in charge. 55, institutional support or not. So you would have to look at the S&P and say, well, we can still swing it in there, which means maybe some of the defensive sectors that we could still look at, right? And so we start with the big sectors. We start looking at the big leading tech sectors that have just powered us through all the way since when? Since back in the day, since they flipped back here in April. You have not broken this 55 on IGV since April. You know what else you haven't done? You haven't had a significant of successive closes under the 22 until it broke on August 1st, and then all rallies failed. Out of 12 TMT names, only 2 now have actually rallied. Technology, media communications have rallied out of the 12 big ones. 2 of them, SE and then PANW yesterday. The rest have just absolutely just been dogged. So once you broke here, what do I have? I have lost the ability to swing trade it. I have lost the bears, and we have been bearish here ever since. And now I lost institutional support. Extended software tech for the first time since April. This is not debatable. This is objective. This is what happens. What you do with this is completely up to you. You could say it doesn't matter to me. That's fine. But this is what happened, and you have to understand that. So when you're looking at stuff like Microsoft, and it's been selling down every single day since August 1st with only 2 days where it's green, or we look at something like an Oracle and we're watching it implode, you really can't be shocked when they're both extended software names that are linked to tech, hence IGV. Or if you look at XLK and we see that that broke the 22 again for the second time, this stuff starts to matter. Also, the breadth of the market, I've been going over and over and over saying how bad it's getting. And we saw it with the NDX, where the NDX is finally closing again below that 22. But I've been showing this chart ad nauseum with the NDFI, and I'll just show you how I do this. All I do is go here, and then we're just going to drop it to a pin, move to a pane right below you. And then what I have to do with this is just click regular, and then we're going to have to click that again, click this again. There it goes, drops down. And then if I want to change this from percentages over, I just have to find that little sucker again and change it. Well, I don't know why it's not letting me do that now. There it is. Let's get going. Perfect. All right. So what is this telling me? Well, here's where I rallied and hit highs. And then when I hit highs, I hit them again. And less names actually were above the 55 or 50 rather, there's a 50 when this happened. So that's telling me I have a divergence and this is weak. Now, whether it closes under this emphatically or not, I personally don't see it how it doesn't come down to like the 55 at this point and test it. But, you know, weirder things have happened. Maybe Jackson Hole will be the best time ever. Maybe he'll be on point. You look at the Qs in regards to it. Of course, it's going to mimic it exactly, but the Qs actually broke. So it's a little, you know, and that's because the ETF and the costs associated with it, it's going to be down a little bit more. But this is super important to get. Now, if we look at this and then said to ourselves, okay, out of everything, how about the RSI and what does that look like? Well, the RSI is rolling back over. We have our divergence there. And then we go to the 4 hour and go, surely it's oversold. Does that look oversold yet? It's not even close to oversold, guys. It's not even on the radar of oversold. So we can go to the NQ and say, well, the NQ, that's oversold. All right, well, oversold can be down there for a very long period of time. In April, we were down here on and off for, you know, weeks. So we can stay down here for a period of time. The question is, do you bounce or you just get something like this where you just keep chopping for, you know, remember when we got liberated in March? So, you know, if we just get more liberation back here, you know, you could just go sideways for a while and just, or down. And I'm leaning towards sideways to down. I don't know what's going to stop it because of the valuations right now. So I think that you have some earnings this week that could help us. But I think you have to look at this and go, well, what semis are doing? And semis are rolling over and semis are having that negative divergence. So where's my leading sector? We're still holding the 12 and the 22 here, which is good. Here's the ASOX, which broke the 22. ASOX is what? Just the AI semiconductors. Always want to look at ARC W for next gen. Next gen names, what are they doing? ARC W broke the 22. How about QQQJ? What's that doing? Okay, well, QQQJ, which is next gen ETF, that doesn't have a care in the world. So when we do return again, it looks to me like it's going to be next gen, which are the smaller cap names out of everything that we should be focused on, which leads me to, how about IWM? Well, IWM is above the 12 and the 22 and the 55. And then we would do comparative analysis and say, well, QQQ's not above the 12 and it's sitting on the 22. SPY is sitting on the 12 and hasn't broken yet, but it doesn't look anywhere near as good as what? IWM. So then maybe we would look at IWM divided by the SPY and see if we see anything really weird here. And you kind of do, and we'll drop that to here. But what you're going to see if I drop the RSI here is you're going to see the levels, how I have these marked off. Watch this on the weekly, and you'll see it for yourself. Here's the higher high on the RSI, and then you make another RSI higher high while this is going down to flat. So, and that is the reversal situation here. This is super interesting to me. And I also got this little wonky thing on the weekly, just to mark real quick. You have like a C13 down here you haven't been able to break. These buys are pretty interesting. If I flip to the monthly, you're getting a monthly signal, and I'll go over that in the monthly, but we're just not there yet. I mean, we still have plenty of time for this to blow up. And I'm not sure that it's going to because of what we're seeing going on out there. If anything, they're going to probably want to cut rates to spur the economy. But this is definitely something that we have to pay attention to. And that takes me to, are we seeing other changes? Yeah, we are seeing other changes. First and foremost, you have news, right? So you have VKTX, and that clearly is going to set all the biotech back because this was a dumpster fire today. We went through this in the pre-market today. This was pretty much a very easy short. I shorted it pre-market. I shorted it again. I'm surprised people actually still want to be in this thing. I think the majority of people are just, covering their shorts, and that's really it. But, with that weak phase 2 data, I really have no idea why anybody would be looking at this and saying, you know what I need? I need some exposure to a drug that's not as good as Lilly's or Novartis. But it's a pill. Okay, it's a pill that doesn't work as well. Okay, so, it just seems to me that the better play would be to maybe buy the ones that everybody wants, their products. I don't know. Seems like a crazy idea, but, maybe lean that way. We have pharma, and they're seeing a bit in pharma. You start looking at the XLV, follow the vein, right? And the XLV space should be getting stronger. And it is. And then that leads to your SIN names, and you start seeing his money going in there. It is. Well, there's PM, for example. If you start taking a look at MO, I'm in these. MO, new highs. BTI, British Tobacco, new highs. No, not new highs today, but just recently. So what is this telling us? Well, let's go take a look at home builders and home construction. Home construction looks like it's going to break out, which is ITB. Where does that put us with the home builders? Be really cool if you worked. Where does that put us? Very similar, but remember, XHB is the home builders, and that's going to take you into tonight. And after hours, you have Toll Brothers, which is down after hours about $7, $8. So we're going to have to see how that conference call really goes and dive into those earnings. We'll do that tomorrow morning pre-market. It's all over the place right now. But overall, what's the next thing that we should be looking at? Well, how about XRT? Well, XRT is hitting highs and rejecting right now, but you have two big dogs this week. You have Target. All right, Target's coming. It's coming tomorrow morning. Wednesday, and Target moves the market. Walmart moves the market. It tells us what's going on with the consumer, and that is definitely something that we're going to want to pay attention to. But what I'm seeing more than I've seen in the past is that we're seeing real cracks, and we haven't really seen them for some time. And I'll show you what I mean. So Reddit is something that we owned and closed today, but we bought it on the earnings breakout. We paid $190 and change for it, and wrote it up, and the stop was $240. And you can see it. All I was really doing was just moving it up and up and up. And then dojis are signs of uncertainty. And you can see it right here. It's not rocket science, guys. You can just see, like, here's the 5-day moving average. It broke, and then it's a wrap. Really, essentially, you just can't get over anything. And once we had that lower low close, and you're up here in the nosebleeds, and this is pretty much the definition of a frozen rope pattern. Like this, red marks the spot. It closed. That's it. It's a wrap. So our stop was 240 on that. I tend to hold things until the end of the day because that's just how I use my stops on very long-term swings or long-term positions because I don't want to get hammer time on me. I'd just rather, lose a little bit more money. But the stop was put out there at like 240, so $50. But some of these other names like NVIDIA, like positions that we've had for a very long period of time, if you take a look at these, they cracked. And there's really no other way to say it. I mean, they have cracked, and it's pretty clear. So NVIDIA for the first time is below the 22-day moving average. This is where it flipped the 55. We're buying it in here, and the same thing with AVGO. We're up $108 on this trade, and it's finally cracking. Most people would say, well, that doesn't, that's not enough. You have to start asking yourself, well, what is? Is it, 276? There is no perfect system. You're just trying to optimize. That's all you're ever trying to do. And when I have a system like this and, this is going great, going great, going great. Show me the last time we had a declining 5 with the 8 above it, a declining 5 with the 8 above it, right? You haven't. you haven't had a declining 5 with the 8 above it. It has not happened. And here it is. So you're getting a lot of signals. And this really is very constructive. Like this takes time more than just breaking the 22. But to get the 8 above you where you have an 8-5 cross to the downside, it doesn't happen very often where you're stacked like that. As a matter of fact, if you really go through it, you can't see it since April. Even if you kind of go in here and you look through it, we actually start going sideways pretty quickly in here and working that off, right? So you were already above it, underneath of it when this was happening. But to undercut it and then fall and have the inability to rally through it really has not happened since April. And this in of itself is telling you that, hey, these things could be a little weak. How weak is weak? That's a great question. Maybe you're going back to some kind of major support lines. Maybe you're going to go back to the 55. And here's the thing, nobody knows. But your next real level is going to be that 77 level, something like that. I think that's where you're going with it. And it's not one sector that this is happening with. You're looking at URA. URA is below the 50-day moving average. PLTR, everybody loved it. Now everyone forgets that they're the people that never owned it, right? It's the most over-owned stock in the world unless you ask your buddy. Now nobody owns it. So you couldn't even hold the gap fill and you just kept breaking. And I was pretty clear about this one in the room today. I think you're going to 151 pretty easily. I don't see how you're not testing the low end of that. I'll just tell you at this point blank. I don't see how you're not testing the low end of that doji. I don't see it. So I think that's where this is heading. And overall, did the Meta news set us off? I mean, it's silly news. Meta's reorganizing its AI department. So Meta hired a bunch of guys they want to keep, and they're going to fire a bunch of guys they don't want to keep. I mean, it is what it is. Like, I don't really think that is earth-shattering news. But, where are you going? 737? Maybe we can hold that level. And then we look at the rotation again. Super important to get this. And these are names, again, that I've had multiple. No, hold on one second. Let me do it this way. But if we go here and take a look at this, I don't like saying these without showing them sometimes. It just bothers me. So we could see we closed these. These were in from April 28th. We had the June 3rd here that we were also entered. So we had one trade for $108 a share and then 42 gain from the June 3rd. And then we had a long term from April 8th to 24th up 70 and then from the 30th up 42 on those names. So I just put them out today to close them. And it's interesting because is there froth in here? Could you make a valuation argument on PLTR? And the answer is you could always make a valuation argument. Like valuation arguments are always out there. It's what someone's willing to pay, right? And then you have something like this and you can say it. That's never my issue with valuation arguments. And that's what we're dealing with now. I mean, someone went out and bought a JPEG, called it an NFT and spent $60 million. So like someone bought a tweet for millions of dollars. So we can always have those kind of, arguments about what is valuation and is this expensive. I don't think that's really the issue. For me, the issue is when somebody, like this always shows you froth. And it's funny because when I always get pushback in the community about this stuff, I laugh because they get like not defensive, but they're like, no, you don't understand, Boomer. I'm like, okay, take BMNR. BMNR is selling their shares of stock to buy Ethereum. And BMNR is trading higher on the NAV than Ethereum. It makes no sense. Like it literally makes zero sense. You're buying something from them so that they can go and buy an asset. Why don't you just go buy the asset? And then people would say, well, that's because they're a treasury and you don't understand it. No, you don't understand it. They're telling you that their stock is worth less than Ethereum, which means that you should be buying Ethereum. What did you think was going to happen to Ethereum when they were done trying to shove $20 billion into BMNR? Like, it's not rocket science. So shorting this, I shorted this. And if you're in the community, I'm not going to pull it up again. And I've been shorting this. And this has just been an absolute home run short. The question is, why? Because this got a little frothy. The market got a little frothy, right? All this kind of stuff. And people are saying it's just like MSTR. And if they think that, they really don't understand it. They should stop completely. But if you look at something like this, you could make an argument that it should trade at NAV. I mean, I think they should trade at NAV to an extent, just like IBIT, because that's really what they are. They're ETFs. They just gave them a different name so that they could keep issuing shares to the public. But all they're doing is being dilutive. So there is some of that speculative excess out there, but that speculative excess always comes out of the market. And that's going to leave us to the next thing, the next side of this, which is going to be, what now, Boomer? Like, where's the market? Where do we go? And I think that it's really simple if you look at the Qs. And we don't have to get into Tesla and all these other names. It's the same soup. You have to watch your moving averages. You have to watch your gap fill tomorrow. You really have to watch that 565. Are you going to fill that or are you not going to fill that? If you fill that gap fill, you have to think that you're going to have the opportunity to come all the way down to this gap fill, right? And you can always look at these gap fills by just dropping like a volume profile right here on them, and it'll show you right clearly where those levels are. So here's your point of control up here, which you've completely rejected at this point. You can see that turn right here on Friday from that level. It's never good. And so here's your value low. So that value low off that rally, that little move, that little juke, you don't want to break 565. And if you break 565, you really need to hold 558. But they would be your really big levels here from the cube perspective. And that's how I would look at the market. That is it.